Namaste, and welcome to the Hindu Parenting Podcast. Today is a very special podcast for us. It is the 50th podcast episode, and dear listeners, we thank you for being with us on this beautiful journey as we discover and explore the joys and challenges of raising a dharmic child in the world today. We all know that language is the primary vehicle through which a culture's values, customs, and traditions are communicated, preserved, and passed on from generation to generation. Knowing a language allows us to access and understand the deeper aspects of a culture, which makes language literacy all the more important for children. In today's podcast, we will focus on the language of Sanatana Dharma, Sanskrit or Samskritam. When we speak of Sanskrit and children, one name comes to mind, Dr. Sampadananda Mishra, who is a renowned Sanskrit scholar and passionate proponent of Indian knowledge systems. He has made significant contributions to the promotion and preservation of Sanskrit language and culture through various innovative initiatives. Notably, he founded and launched the world's first 24-hour Sanskrit radio channel, Divyavani Sanskrit Radio, in 2013. He also founded the Samskrita Bala Sahitya Parishad, an organization dedicated to creating, evaluating, and promoting children's literature in Sanskrit. With a passion for nurturing the younger generation, Dr. Mishra recently launched a monthly e-magazine for children called Saptavarna, further enriching the domain of Sanskrit children's literature. He has won many accolades and awards, including the Sahitya Akademi and President of India Awards for his work in Sanskrit promotion, yoga, spirituality, and education. Today, we will focus on his work in the area of Sanskrit and children. Namaskar, Sampadananda Mishra ji. It's a great honor to have you on this special podcast with us.
Namaskar, Namaskar Rekhaji, and Namaskar all the listeners who are listening to this podcast. It's my privilege and it's also a great pleasure for me that I will be speaking to you all today on a topic which is very, very dear to my heart and for which I have been working since long in a very dedicated manner with a, if I would like to use this word, with a missionary zeal that Sanskrit has to be taken to every child of Bharat. So that's what is the grand aim in my life.
Thank you for being here, Sampadanand ji. As a long-time follower of your work, I've noticed that you mentioned many times about the phenomenal response you get when you work with children. I've also heard you talk about working with special needs children and how they show a dramatic improvement. Could you tell us, to begin with, what are the benefits of a foundational Sanskrit education for children?
Good. Yes. So this is what being asked by hundreds of parents, hundreds of people, why should we learn Sanskrit? And especially, why should my child learn Sanskrit? The answer can be given from various angles by considering various dimensions, various issues, and various aspects of the language. But let me put it in a very precise manner what I feel, that how Sanskritam helps, what benefit it gives to the children when they start learning it in a fun way, in a methodical way, and in a conscious way. It all depends upon how do we bring the Sanskritam education to the children. The most important aspect of this language that it's a very well structured language. Very well structured language. Look at its phonetic, look at its linguistic values, the phonetic values, the linguistic values. It's so well designed and so structured way it is designed that it automatically generates love for language. And the children learning a structured language, it helps them, like when they are getting into this very design of the language, which is highly structured, systematic, even scientific, it enhances their linguistic faculty when they're learning it methodically. So that means the love for language and the structured enhancement of the linguistic faculty. Like if someone's linguistic faculty is well developed, so for that child, learning any language becomes very easy. So all those who have studied, so like I take my own example. I have not studied many Indian languages, many languages in a formal way. But because of my understanding of Sanskrit, and this must have happened or must be happening to many people, because of my introduction to Sanskrit, and I know Sanskrit language, it becomes easy for me to understand and learn other languages easily and understand the nuances of other languages, nuances of the words, expressions, idiomatic expressions in other languages. So this is one of the greatest benefits for the children. The second aspect is that the language is very well structured, very systematic. At the same time, it is intensely rhythmic. And this rhythmic beauty of Sanskritam, you call it like its majestic sonority. So that again becomes an aid to memory. Like if a child is not focused, doesn't have a great memory power, ask that child just to recite or teach that child to recite few shlokas, few songs, mantras. It can be any shloka, any mantra, any song, but rhythmic. And you see what happens to the child after 2 to 3 months. The result is amazing. Within 2 3 months, you can start seeing the result that the child is becoming focused. I have worked with many hyper children, low memory children, and experimented it. And I can even give the example of my own daughter. Growing up later, she herself has written about her experience of learning Sanskritam, how it helped her in getting rid of her excitement, her lack of focus, her anxiety. So she herself has described, she accepts that if my father had not taught me these mantras and shlokas, I would not have made a progress within a short span of time. This experiment I have done with my own child. I have done it with the children of many people. And it is because of this high melodious, high rhythmic aspect of Sanskritam that it has a direct impact on the memory. It enhances the memory power. It's an aid to the memory. It helps again because of this rhythmic aspect. It helps again developing the sense of music. It brings the rhythm into every part of our being. One becomes more sensitive to rhythm, to music, to rhythmic movement, which again is necessary for a progressive and harmonious growth of the child. See, most of the special children, the children who have cognitive issues, ADHD, or even what do you call the speech related problems, hearing impairment, so many issues, like so many types of problems that you find in the special children. So now I tell them that these are the children who are out of tune children, out of rhythm children. Our job as a mentor, as a facilitator, is to bring them back to their own music, to their own tune, the own rhythm. So introducing this language to the children and children of such nature, it means to help them get in tune to their own music. They're out of tune, out of rhythm. Bring rhythm to them, and you see that how beautifully they participate in the activities and how beautifully their growth happens. So this is another benefit of learning Sanskrit. Now you see the mantric power of this language. It's a mantric language. And when we say mantric language, any language can become a mantra. But the speciality and uniqueness of this language is that it's by nature mantric. The intensity with which it has maintained its own force, own flavor, own music, own rhythm, own power, no language has preserved that within itself, within its own structure. And because of this mantric power of the language, it's again very, very potent to instill the spiritual values in the children right from their childhood. And when you say spiritual, again, like it is making them more and more conscious of their inner strength, inner potential, and helping them manifesting it. And that is the reason why Sanskritam helps maintaining the well-being of the children learning it. This is another benefit. Now again, you see, Sanskritam is a very logical language. So it generates clarity and joy. It again instills the sense of keen observation, scientific temperament. Like in London, there is a school, the St. James School, where since 1975, they're teaching Sanskrit compulsorily in the heart of London. They're teaching Sanskrit compulsorily from age group 5 to 18. And anyone who goes to them and then asks them, like, why are you teaching Sanskrit here compulsorily? The children are by-hearting the mantras of Upanishads, the shlokas of the Gita, Veda mantras. They're learning, by-hearting, reciting. So, the simple answer which their teachers, their management, they give to people that our children do best in math and science and computer because we have Sanskritam compulsory. They have made it compulsory. And the children coming out of St. James School, most of them, you see that they are all bright students. They have succeeded in doing that. But in Bharat, you can't even think of making it compulsory in schools. But this is the responsibility of each one of us, that we need to bring Sanskritam to our children. If the schools are not providing, let's do it at home. Who stops us? If I do it at my own home, no one will stop me. I can give that entire knowledge of Sanskritam to my child at home. Forget about school. And then my child will definitely stand out, will do best in all subjects. And the credit goes to Sanskritam. And today, if you look at NEP, the new education policy, and if people ask what is new in new education policy, is the focus on rootedness. How do we make our children civilization conscious? How do we connect with them with the core civilizational values? It can happen very effectively through Sanskrit.
Uh, so, Sampadananji, that was a very elaborate exposition of the benefits of learning Sanskrit as a child. Uh, Now, how does one initiate a child into Sanskrit, especially if the parents themselves do not know the language? What is an easy way to break a child into learning Sanskrit?
Okay, this is a very good question and very practical also. There are many people who really wish to give Sanskrit education to their children, but they don't find a good teacher, they don't find good materials, they don't know how to help the child to learn Sanskrit. First thing, they themselves do not know. It is not necessary that everyone has to know everything, but we can manage it if we have a good teacher around us or good materials, good applications. Now, earlier the problem was acute, but now, because of the technology, advancement in technology, and because there is a great awareness which is spreading with regard to our civilizational values, with regard to our language, our Sanskriti, and making them available on digital platforms, there are many innovative learning materials which are available on internet, freely available, or available with a very minimum price. For example, me and three of my other colleagues, we had created in 2019 an application called Language Curry, which is evaluated by Google, evaluated by Government of India, and they have recognized it as the best language learning apps in India. And we started with Sanskrit. The entire content I designed, keeping in mind that how children can learn it, a new learner can learn it in a simple, methodical, practical way. And once you go through the lessons and then do the exercises given there, so there is no doubt that you will not get into the whole spirit of the language. Similarly, since 2003, I have been promoting this curriculum, very unique curriculum which I have designed, the textbooks which I have designed under the title Deva Bhasha. So I was looking for a school which which is open to my idea of making Sanskrit compulsory from playgroup. And I must have tried with hundreds of schools, hundreds of founders. And in 2003, I met this founder, vice chairperson of Set MR Jaipuria School in Lucknow, Mrs. Anjali Jaipuria. So she heard me speaking, or someone had introduced her to me. And then she wanted to talk to me. Then we sat in the hotel, we talked about what can be done. I said, she said, what do you want? I said, I want a school and all kinds of support to make Sanskrit compulsory. The compulsory is the most difficult part. Parents need to be convinced, children need to be convinced, management needs to be convinced, other teachers need to be convinced. Then only the system can work. Then you are going to make Sanskritam compulsory, not French or not Italian language or not Spanish or not Mandarin, but Sanskritam. He said, okay, do you think it is practical? I said, I will make it practical. It is absolutely practical. I have the whole plan with me. I have the blueprint with me. So I sat down, I showed her the blueprint. I designed the whole curriculum. The first 7-8 years, we did the experiment. We didn't print the book. Then we printed the 11 books. And this is perhaps the one and only school in Bharat with the ICSE board, which has Sanskrit compulsory from playgroup to class 8. And where children learn it so easily, so fun way. Anyone who wishes to give their own children Sanskritam, you have the Devabhasha textbooks. If you need help, I have the trained teachers, I can link with them. They can connect online. There are so many, children learning from our teachers, the Devabhasha books, step by step, and then getting educated because their school doesn't offer Sanskrit. Additionally, they're doing Sanskritam because they're interested. So I've created this enormous amount of materials for children, keeping the children at the center, how they can understand it in a structured way, in a methodical way, using various innovative pedagogical tools, which is conducive to the child psychology of different groups, different age groups. So this is what I have done from my side, bringing Sanskrit to the children on an experimental basis. And today I'm happy to say that I have been 100% successful in this endeavor. Today, anyone who comes in, and today hundreds of schools are using Devabhasha curriculum. 2.5 million learners from all over world on language career application because they like it. We have used very innovative pedagogical tools to teach Sanskrit through activities.
So, is it possible for the average parent who doesn't know much Sanskritam to be able to pick up these books and try to, learn along with their children? And how does it work for a person who does not know Sanskritam at all?
Yeah. The thing is, like, these are textbooks, not self-taught books.
Okay.
But it's designed in such a way that if you are concentratedly going from playgroup, the books, and slowly learning page by page, even a sensitive parents, they can understand it. Anyone. And slowly you build it up. And wherever you need help, we have the teachers who can help you.
Coming to another question, related to learning Sanskrit. What is your experience in attracting kids to learn Sanskrit? Is it cool? Is it fashionable? Or is there a sort of pushback against learning Sanskrit? If so, why? What is it that we are doing wrong? What is it that is making Sanskrit so, in quotes, uncool? Where does the problem lie?
See, my experience is that if you are teaching in a very innovative way, interesting way, the children just fall in love with the language. I'll tell you that in Jaipuriya school where we do it, the children will come to the school first, they will search for the Sanskrit teacher. They love the Sanskrit teachers like anything. Because we use many innovative tools, activities. I'll give you one example. I have given strict instruction to the teachers because we do 4 times training to the teachers in a year. So I have to teach them, demonstrate before them how the children have to be taught, how a shloka has to be taught, how a mantra has to be taught, how a song has to be taught, how a drama has to be, a play has to be taught. What kind of pedagogical, innovative activities that we can use to make the class engaging, interesting, and helping children in their inner growth. I'll give you some example which will bring more clarity to you. Say, for example, there are different parts of speech. Definitely, we have to teach in the language class all parts of speech. So then they have the full language in their grasp. Now, in Sanskritam, you have to teach them the vibhaktis. But I have strict instruction to the teachers not to use the words vibhakti, any grammatical terminology before the children. You can teach all the parts of speech without using the grammatical terminology. So there, Deva Bhasha has no grammar lessons at all. We're teaching the language, not the grammar, in a very natural way. So the example that I'm giving you here. So there are revision classes. Suppose we have taught them like Mama Nama, my name, Tava Nama, your name, Tasya Nama, his name, Tasyah Nama, her name, Ramasya, of Rama. Like in English, you use the apostrophe S, Rams. In Sanskrit, it becomes Ramasya. Sharirasya, of the body. Gajasya, of the elephant. Now, this needs to be revised. Now, say for example, this is Shashti Vibhakti. Then in the revision class, what I instruct the teachers that you go to the class once you find that children have learned it and have started using Ramasya, Gajasya, they have the understanding of it. You go with 2 sets of flashcard where you put animals, birds, take 10, 15. And another set of flashcard, or you can use PowerPoint or any other means, any other props. On another set, you will have to have the footprints of the animals and birds that you have chosen in the previous set. Then show the animals, ask them, Eshah kaha, who is this? So they will look at the image and they'll say, oh, Eshah Simha, this is lion. Eshah kaha, Eshah Mayura. Eshah kaha, Eshah Kukkura, this is dog. Eshah Bidala, this is cat. Eshah Gardabha, this is donkey. Eshah Ushtra, this is camel. Eshah Gajah, this is elephant. Eshah Ashwa or Ghotaka, this is horse. Now you start showing them the footprints and put a question. Kasya Padachinnam, whose footprint? By this activity, it is not only revising the Shashti Vibhakti. Look at what kind of pedagogical strategy I have adopted here. My purpose is not just revising the Shashti Vibhakti. At the same time, I'm helping the child's observation power, triggering the observation power. Because most of the adults also cannot recognize the footprints of the animals and birds because we have never observed. Then what happens if in the classroom no one is able to answer my question, the teacher's question? The children will lose confidence. What kya पूछ लिया? What he has asked that we are unable to answer. Then you have to be very prompt. The teacher has to apply the principles of education. So one of the principles of education is from near to far, from known to more known. So you show them the elephant's footprint. They will immediately recognize. Then they will say, Gajasya Padachinnam. Show them camel because it's a unique footprint, because it's a rounded hoof, no cut is there in between. They will recognize easily. Ushtrasya Padachinnam. Now slowly they will be able to tell you Bidalasya Padachinnam, cats. Kukkurasya Padachinnam, dogs. Now see what happens. Now you are triggering their power of observation also. Classroom is engaging, interesting. You are generating curiosity in the children. You are engaging them in the parts of the speech, practicing the Shashti Vibhakti. Their conversational skill is developing. Their logical thinking, power of observation is developing while you are teaching the language. Now what happens next day, if you have done this exercise, you can try it out. Next day, children, they come to the teacher, they trouble him like anything. Sir, like the tail is like this, the tail of the tiger is like this, the tail of the rabbit is like this, and the, bird is like this, ear is like this, because something is triggered. They start observing. Then when they have done that, then you can take up another exercise. I mix up Shashti and Saptami to make it very interesting in the classroom. Saptami is the locative, right? So what I do, I remove the tail of the rabbit and fix it in the tortoise. The elephant's tail is fixed in the dog. Dog's tail is fixed in the cat. Then I put this question, Kasya Pucham Kasmin? Whose tail is in whom? Shashti Saptami. Then they will observe. It's a very interesting exercise. They will observe and then say that, oh, Kukkurasya Pucham Gaje Asti. Gajasya Pucham Bidale Asti. Bidalasya Pucham Kachape Asti. Kachapasya Pucham Sasake Asti. So you have the revision of Shashti and Saptami. The language skill, the conversational skill is developing. Their power of observation is triggered. So keeping in mind like how I can trigger their power of observation, imagination, their logical thinking, their original thought power, varieties of activities I have done. Then the Sanskrit teaching becomes very, very interesting for the children. I just gave you 2 examples. Hundreds of examples, hundreds of activities I have done. This is how the Deva Bhasha is taught in the schools wherever they have adopted it.
I can see how this would be very attractive to children. It's fascinating and innovative approach. The the main thing is, I think we should have sufficient numbers of trained teachers. So for the adults listening, the next question might be, so how often do you do teacher training? How can they, get themselves trained so that we can help all the children out there to learn Sanskritam in a joyful way?
Okay. So the teacher training that happens at Jaipuriya school 4 times a year, it's meant for all the teachers who are appointed to teach Deva Bhasha textbooks in hundreds of schools. Every year we are appointing 20, 25 new teachers because new schools are opening. Now, if anyone wants to join that 2-day training program, is most welcome to be a part of the training program. Someone can be in touch with us where, though we don't announce it, but one can be in touch with us and then knows this time the training is happening. The other way, what I do, there are specific schools who invite me and my colleague who give the training, because I keep one teacher, trained teacher with me who can demonstrate what I see. The theoretical part I will be speaking about, and the practical demonstration is given by the teacher. So the two of us, we give the training. There are schools which organize this training program for the parents and the teachers working there who are willing to take up Sanskrit, because the teachers are also parents, they also have their own children. So the training program is organized. So then we go for 2 days or 3 days, we give them the training, explain the textbook, so then the parents can take it on their own and then start teaching their children, or the teachers in the school can start teaching. So we show them the activities, we show them the different chapters, we explain how to move forward, explain every aspect of Deva Bhasha. That's how it happens. So sometimes, like organizations which say for example, like you have this organization, parenting, Hindu parenting community. Suppose say 100 parents today, they're ready to take this training program and decide that they will teach Deva Bhasha Pathyakrama or Sanskrit through Deva Bhasha Pathyakrama to their own children. And they are ready to take this 2 days training program to understand the textbook. Then I'm ready. I and my colleague, we can come and then give them the training. So this is how it happens. And this is how we can help each other.
That's a fascinating idea that you've brought up. Now, suppose there was a group like that. What I mean, and say that no parent is previously exposed to Sanskrit, or has very limited exposure to
Yeah, not
Sanskrit.
necessary.
How
We will
long
take
would
care
it?
of that. We will take care
Yeah,
of it.
so
If you have no
yeah,
idea about what Sanskrit is yet, you want to teach Sanskrit, we will make you a Sanskrit teacher.
okay. So what is the time frame that you would give for someone to become proficient to be able to pass it on to their
See,
kids?
if you ask me, are you proficient in Sanskrit? I will say no. It's such a vast language, so complicated. More you go deep into it, so no one can say that I'm a master of this language. Yet, I have some certain mastery. But for the basics, the with intensity and dedication, put some effort. Within 4 to 6 months, one becomes ready with the basic Sanskritam, and one can learn it better by teaching. You start
Correct.
teaching your own children, or the children who are connected with you, form a group of children, two, three, four, and then start teaching them. Your learning happens, strengthens, and you are helping the children also in doing that.
Have you conducted something like this before? And if so, what is
So
the
many,
frequency of your?
mm.
Okay. So 4 to 6 months, what's the frequency of classes that parents would have to attend?
Uh, Frequency in the sense that uh,
How many days a week? I mean, I'm just asking practical things because we could
how
get
many
these
days they
questions.
should teach their children.
No,
No,
I
no. How many days would they have to attend classes
train.
to get sort of able to teach their children within 4 to 6 months? Is it or weekly wise, 3 hours a week, 5 hours a week? How much would they require?
Yeah, see what happens. Like once they have gone through the textbook and the 2 days training program or 3 days training program, then they can start teaching from the next week onwards. The simple
Oh,
language. It's
okay.
not very difficult. Like you give them some vocabularies, teach them some shlokas, some songs through some activities, which we will be, like giving you what activity, what shloka, what mantra, how much of the practical sentences, what kind of vocabularies. So you start with that. And then slowly, while teaching your children the basic ones, so you can go through the rest of the books or rest of the materials. And other than the books, also there will be a lot of other materials which we will share to help that building upon the language. For example, like you can get access to language curry applications to get many, many examples. Go through the exercises. So they can start teaching from the next week onwards if this week they have got the training.
I see.
Are
Okay.
we talking
That is
about
interesting.
training in person only for those listening from outside India, from across the world? Is this something doable online also?
It can be done online, but the offline, so there are many activities. So, for example, like you have to play with the children. So, a lot of activities which we do, so one cannot experience it by being on online. Like we have to do it group activities, learn it, like the way children are learning in the classroom. There is some limitation, but some basic ideas can be shared as a training program.
I'd also like to ask you about the children's books that you have authored, and especially the children's magazine Saptavarna. Is it for any particular age group or a certain level of proficiency that the child has to reach in order to begin reading such a magazine?
So, children's books, first of all, what is known as Bala Sahityam, a children's literature in Sanskrit. When I established the Sanskrit Bala Sahitya Parishad in 2014, during that time I felt by going through many children's literature that they are not qualitative. You hardly have qualitative literature in Sanskrit. The ideas are not very innovative. Okay, I'll give you one example. Very recently, I gave 30 books to NBT in Sanskrit, children's literature. I was responsible in creating those 30 books. That means I selected from hundreds of qualitative children's literature in English and Hindi. 30 books I selected, including me, another 9 scholars I engaged. We did a training program where I explained how things have to be translated, what are the beautiful ideas explained here. Then we did 30 books now available in NBT, National Book Trust of India. I'll just give you an example. What, why did I choose these books? And what exactly is meant by children's literature? For me, through the literature, we are helping the child in their inner growth, connecting them with various things and connecting with the nature, connecting with their own civilizational values, connecting with moral ethical values, connecting with many ideas, new ideas, innovations. This is what a literature should do. By going through the literature, the child's curiosity is developed, power of imagination is developed, his creative ideas are getting enhanced, right? His love for language is getting enhanced. If the literature cannot do this and then one finds it just boring, then the literature doesn't serve the purpose. Okay. I'll give you one example, the book which I had chosen to translate it. It means greet when you meet. Now, suppose this idea is given to someone, like, okay, the idea is greet when you meet. What is the kind of literature that one can create for a child, for children? What should be the content of this idea? Now you see the person, because I have translated it into Sanskrit, the person who has written it, how beautifully he understands this aspect of creating qualitative literature which will help children developing all these qualities which I mentioned. So the first page begins with two ants meeting and then joining their antennas. So when two ants meet, they greet each other by touching their antennas. Now immediately the curiosity of the child develops what is there on the next page, which animal. The literature is connecting with the nature, with the animals. Okay, you develop love for animals. You develop love for nature. Your curiosity grows. So next page you will find elephant, tigers. Then it comes to the human beings. Human beings, like suppose father and son meet. Suppose two soldiers meet, right? Two teachers meet. Suppose even it is cross culture, two Japanese people meet. How do they greet each other? So starting from ants till how Japanese people greet each other, how British people greet each other, how Indian people in various ways greet each other, in different situations, how greeting happens. This becomes such a wonderful literature for the children that it teaches so many things to the children. So like this, I have created, for example, like the book Shanai Shanai, for which I have received the Sahitya Akademi award. Here also the same thing. It is a first of its kind rhyming songs in Sanskrit, where I try to link them with the nature, with the rhythm, with the beauty of the language, the beauty of many wonders of the world. So it attracts children. So this is how the literature is being created. And then I have created like a Hasya Manjari, Saptavarna Chitrapatanga, then Shani Shani, then various other books. And I always aspire to bring out a monthly magazine for children, like you have Chanda Mama and various, children's magazines of that quality, of that kind. So, but it was not happening, but it happened with the help of some of our generous people who have studied Sanskrit from me. So they helped financially, and then we could bring out. Then it addresses to various age groups from 5 to 12, 13, 14, like that. So we have varieties of topics presented in Saptavarna. You have some comics, you have some rhyming songs, you have some vocabularies, you have some practical sentences, you have small stories, you have small, playlists, you have got some magic squares, you have got something which is connected with the world of science, the world of word. What can generate curiosity in the children? And using very simple language, you have Shabda Krida, crosswords. Okay. So varieties of topics Saptavarna presented. And due to the lack of funding, so we have given a halt to it, but I'm going to revive it soon, resume it soon. So again, Saptavarna will be available monthly. So I'm working out, and hopefully within 2-3 months, the Saptavarna will be again alive for the children. And then we will continue and we will not stop.
Sampaji, I find your description of the books very, very interesting and contemporary, in a sense that I can see echoes of how the experiential learning paradigms that the West propagates is the kind of method that you're trying to popularize Sanskrit. Now, I also want to ask you, since Sanskrit is also linked to our civilizational heritage, what from that do you bring into the books? Maybe from our scriptures or from, I know you do the shloka and things like that, but into the books that you write, what aspects of our civilizational legacy do you bring in?
See, there are various ways and various aspects of our civilizational values we present through the books. Say, for example, like we need to create a sense of patriotism, Deshabhakti. So we have the stories of the unsung heroes. We have the stories of, say, for example, like the exemplary leaders, the Rishi leaders. We have the stories of the Rishis, the Rishi tradition. We have stories of the unsung heroes. We have stories of the heroic children. We have the stories from our, Puranas. We have songs like patriotic songs which are meant for children. So by like through stories, playlists, songs, shlokas, various activities, so we bring these civilizational values, and then this is an integral part of the kind of literature that we are creating, or the literature must be created keeping all these things in mind, other than just teaching some shlokas and mantras from the Vedas, Upanishads, and Gita and other texts and Subhashitas. Definitely, they also need to be taught. But at the same time, what can be conducive to the children? So those components also are part of the literature that we have been creating.
Sure.
Is there like a window to Sanskrit learning? I mean, can Sanskritam, if parents have missed the bus and their children are, say, more than 12 or 15, and parents of older children, have they missed the bus on Sanskritam learning? Is it still possible to learn once you're over the age of 18, once you're a young adult? We do have many young adults listening also.
Always, the possibilities are immense. It all depends upon where lies your interest, and it is through the lens of that, or it is through that one can be linked with Sanskrit. Say, for example, someone is interested in music. It is through music one can have access to Sanskrit. Someone is interested in technology, in science, in commerce. It is through that one can. So, for example, like recently I was addressing a group of 200, 250 children there. I mean, children is they're young, they have crossed their teen young minds who are doing their MBA, commerce, entrepreneurship, and management and everything. So it is, they are more interested in that. But it is through that their subject I linked them with the civilizational values, with the Indian knowledge system, with the Indian language. I made them conscious of something deeper which they are missing. Suddenly there is an interest. This is that, oh, we need to know that. We need to, learn the language. So how can we learn? Because this sounds interesting. Someone asked me, because we talked about wealth creation, which is one of the baseline aims of, say, entrepreneurship or management, that you have to be very productive. Productivity means like you create more wealth. The company has to generate more money. Okay. So someone asked me that, see, even that like Sadhguru or Ramdev, they are also like great entrepreneurs and they are also creating a lot of wealth. So how do you link it with, like spiritual? If they are spirit, on one side they say they are spiritual masters, but they are doing business and then doing this entrepreneurial activities and then creating a lot of wealth. So what is the difference between the ordinary businessmen and these people doing business? I said, yeah, definitely there is a hell and heaven difference between the ordinary business people or companies which are focused on generating wealth, and Baba Ramdev or Sadhguru or Sri Sri or Mata Amritanandamai or plenty of other spiritual gurus or the leaders who have for whom we have immense respect. I say wealth creation is one thing, but what do you do with your wealth? When Namami Gange project came by Prime Minister of India, Modi ji, Mata Amritanandamai was the first person to donate 100 crores. Baba Ramdev, whatever is the profit. So his aspiration is to create 500 Gurukulas where free education will be given with all high quality things. So then the children learning in those Gurukulas will become civilizationally rooted. So on one side, you have to create wealth, but on another side, where do you spend? How do you spend? I linked them with this whole idea of Shatahasta Samahara, Sahasrahasta Sankira, earn with 100 hands and give in 1,000 hands. This is what is our civilization. This is what is our culture, our values. So now an entrepreneur student who is doing entrepreneurship or doing management, BBA, MBA, they suddenly become aware of a very different kind of thing in entrepreneurship. So it is through that you link. Like I have a whole setup. Just before this conversation, I was sitting with 5 of the psychology students of here. Their interest is not Sanskrit. They have never studied Sanskrit. But after 2 classes, then they feel, sir, can you spend some time teaching us Sanskrit? Because I showed them like what greater psychology is involved and the real solution you can find in our tradition, in the Veda, Vedanta, Tantra, Darshana, Sahitya, and the very language itself. What psychology was studying is Western ideas. It doesn't give you any lasting solution to things. The clear idea about the psychological principles, you will get it here. And they're convinced. The kind of examples I set before them, they're convinced that, yes, sir, why we are not taught all these things. Why all the psychology departments are not having Indian psychology. They ask this question. Now they are showing interest to learn Sanskrit. So whatever the subject may be, so it is through that subject we can link them with the greater values that Sanskrit has. It all depends upon like how do we link. We have to have that knowledge also. So then we can link. So no one misses the bus. If someone has missed, we can, like provide a vehicle which they can ride and comfortably they can go to the destination.
Very reassuring and very heartening to hear this. We have a question that has been sent in by a couple of listeners about some opportunities that exist for a person who has graduated in Sanskrit. Is there, coming to the practical realities of parenting, they also want to know if there's anything that a child can do with Sanskrit in their careers other than teaching or research.
So you see, like people have this idea that Sanskrit means like you can be a teacher or researcher, or you can be, somewhere appointed in a temple, do some religious, activities. But there are so many areas where one can, like do Sanskrit. I'll give you a lot of examples. In fact, I have written one article which is available on my Medium page. The various job opportunities for the Sanskrit students. So I'll give you some examples. If I'm running this Divyavani Sanskrit radio, I need some Sanskrit students who have the Sanskrit knowledge, who can understand, to help me converting the audio into the radio format, uploading it into the software, making it alive for the listeners, recording the audio, editing the audio, and only a Sanskrit knowing person can do it, because all those who know the technology but do not know Sanskrit. So I have to sit with them and tell that, okay, this portion you have to cut and then mix it with this. Or this is the meaning of that. Or prepare at least a scheduling of the programs that will be running, which day, which time, right? Because I don't find someone so proficient in both. So the entire work I am doing, I myself am doing, because I have trained myself in that. They can do news reading. If you develop a good reading ability, your pronunciation is good. So Doordarshan has, All India Radio has, news bulletin in Sanskrit morning and evening. News editing. You can, uh, be a journalist, Sanskrit journalist. There are some Sanskrit newspapers which are coming. Of course, it has no standard if we, consider what is a qualitative journalism. So that has not yet happened in Sanskrit. But this is an area which one can work on it. With the AI, so for example, now you will find hardly Sanskrit students or Sanskrit knowing people who are expert in writing prompts, how to use AI tools. So, for example, like either you use Google Studio or Chat GPT or many other tools. The art and science of prompt writing for generating more efficient Sanskrit texts, Sanskrit related content. One can do wonderful things, and the tool can do wonderful things. I have trained, like one or two people in my team, and we're working on the Vedas, Upanishads, Gita, and other things. Amazing result. We know like what command to be given, how to train the AI so then we get the right kind of result. So along with Sanskrit, we need to develop many skills. And if those skills are there, we can fit in many jobs. But there is no capacity building or skill development in the field of Sanskrit. There are some people, it's not that it's absolutely absent. There are some people who are doing also. So that's how the Sanskrit can grow and then become relevant. There are plenty of areas where one can do good jobs, and then one can even have a startup. Today it's a startup age, so you can start up, have a new startup. Like we created a language query application. This is a new startup. Recently, I had put it on my Facebook and other social media platforms. So there is one architect design, interior design students in Mumbai. So who got in touch with me. We discussed a lot because she was fascinated by my book, The Wonder That Is Sanskrit. So she designed a cafe based on the ideas which are presented in The Wonder That Is Sanskrit book and various other things. This cafe is like a museum. She designed it so well. She called it a Sansara cafe. Very well designed. Like you go, you have a cup of coffee, and there is a lot of learning in the cafe. They designed it in that way. She dedicated specific spaces for specific components of the language, its tradition, and various other aspects, which can attract people. And one will feel like happy, oh, chalo, as like this Sunday, let's go to Sansara Cafe and explore what is there. One needs to bring up these innovative ideas to promote Sanskrit or bring Sanskrit to the life of people. What is needed is these innovative ideas, innovation, different skill sets along with Sanskrit. Then you see Sanskrit will uh, thrive and becomes relevant and practical for many.
Relevant, practical, and aspirational also, with all these innovative ways of teaching, learning, propagating, and also making it part of day-to-day life. For example, the cafe. I think, the startup culture, cafes, I think this is a great idea to weave in something like Sanskritam into daily life and also the leisure time activities that you have. And I think that's going to be the big thing. That's going to be the wave of the future, I feel. So it's been
One can even say, for example, run a very high quality publishing house. You hardly have now a high quality publishing house in Sanskrit which focuses only on children's literature, creating various tools for teaching Sanskrit in innovative manner, creating various kinds of props, which are like things which are available for learning English or French or Spanish. Enormous amount of literature and props, but we don't have it in Sanskrit.
I think it's like a chicken and egg problem right now. People are not coming in because they think it is not profitable, perhaps, but it just needs a small seed somewhere. And then I think, it'll build up like a snowball and it'll just take off. So
Yes.
I'm hoping that we'll get there. And it's been totally fascinating speaking with you and getting so many insights. I'm sure the parents listening also will have many, many ideas to take away from this podcast. I have to ask before we end, what is your advice or suggestions? Do you have any for the listeners of this podcast, which is Hindu parents?
Okay. So my only suggestion will be that whatever you are doing in whichever profession you may be, so keep little bit of Sanskrit with you. Have that love and respect for Sanskrit and make sure that your children learn this language. And if you ensure that, then see that we can build a very different generation. We can build a generation, new generation of children who are civilization conscious children, rooted in their civilizational values, strong physically, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, and rooted spiritually. And Sanskrit has that power to do all these things. Just bring Sanskrit to your children and see the amazing thing it does. So that's what will be my humble request with folded hands.
So, with that, we come to the end of today's podcast. Thank you, Sampadanand. This was fascinating, and I'm sure the parents have to listen to this again and again and take away many important points. We hope to be instrumental in creating an explosion of interest in Samskrita learning and teaching, especially at younger and younger ages, because I think that's the key to civilizational continuity. So we hope to have you back in future for one more exposition on questions related to children Sanskrit. There are many things we could not ask you today due to lack of time. And we'd also like you back for another exposition on teaching children through the philosophy of Sri Aurobindo at some point. So thank you for your time. Listeners, please visit hinduparenting.org. You can also write to us at contact@hinduparenting and let us know the kind of topics you'd like us to discuss on future podcasts. Do visit our hinduparenting.org for the latest articles, reviews, podcasts, and information about classes for teenagers. So please subscribe to our newsletter and follow us on Twitter and Instagram. And you can also listen to us on any podcast platform of your choice, including YouTube. Until next time, namaste.